So, the Battle of Waterloo, it wasn't just the end of a war, you know? It was really the end of an idea. This was the final explosive collision between the revolutionary genius of one single man and the unshakable established order of an entire continent. I mean, think about it. For more than 2 decades, Napoleon Bonaparte had basically bent Europe to his will through sheer talent and military brilliance. So how does a figure like that get so completely and utterly crushed in a single day? Well, that's the question we're going to dig into. All right, let's set the scene. The year is 1815. Napoleon, who has already been beaten and exiled, pulls off this daring escape from his island prison. And in this period we now call the 100 Days, he lands back in France and just takes power again. The only reason he could do that? Europe was basically a powder keg. The old monarchies that had been put back in charge, yeah, they were super unpopular. And that created the perfect power vacuum for him to step right back into. And this, right here, this is the heart of the whole thing. This wasn't just a squabble over land. Napoleon's army, built on merit and national pride, was pretty much the living embodiment of the French Revolution. For the Allied powers, you know, the kings and aristocrats, this was a massive threat to their entire way of life. So Waterloo wasn't just another battle, it was the final showdown in a huge ideological war. So that brings us to the two guys at the center of it all. On one side, you've got Napoleon, the tactical genius, and on the other, Wellington, the master manager. I mean, their styles could not have been more different, and that one single difference, well, it was about to decide the fate of Europe. Let's really break this down. Napoleon was all about quick thinking, improvisation, charisma. His soldiers were fiercely loyal to him personally. He was the singular genius. Wellington? Totally different story. He was an absolute expert in logistics, defense, and maybe most importantly, managing a really complex multinational coalition. He wasn't a showman. He was just a brutally effective manager. So this wasn't just a battle of armies. It was a battle of philosophies, individual brilliance versus institutional power. And this quote it perfectly captures the whole theme, doesn't it? Could one man's incredible, off-the-charts talent actually overcome the combined systematic power of an entire institution? Waterloo was going to be the ultimate test. Okay, so let's get to the battle itself. Napoleon's plan was actually pretty simple. Hit him fast, hit him hard, and do it before all the Allied forces could link up. But on the morning of June 18th, that plan ran headfirst into a totally unexpected enemy. Yup, mud. It had rained. A lot. The battlefield was a total quagmire. And just like that, Napoleon's single biggest advantage, his fast-moving, deadly artillery, was neutralized. The cannons just got stuck, the attack was delayed, and that gave Wellington precious time. And that delay was absolutely critical. The French launched attack after attack. Around 4 p.m., there was this legendary, massive cavalry charge. But it failed to break Wellington's lines, which were cleverly positioned to be sheltered from cannon fire. You see, Wellington's strategy wasn't really to out-genius Napoleon, it was just to hold on, to endure. And endure he did, because Wellington knew something that Napoleon was kind of gambling he wouldn't have to deal with. He wasn't just fighting for time, he was waiting for the system he represented to show up on the battlefield. And there it is. That was the decisive moment. The Prussian army, led by General Blücher, suddenly appears on Napoleon's flank. All of a sudden, this isn't a one-on-one duel anymore. Wellington's entire job had been to hold the line until the Allied coalition could bring its full, crushing weight to bear. And, well, it worked perfectly. And if you want to see why that was so devastating, just look at the numbers. The battle started with forces that were roughly equal, right? Around 70,000 on each side. But then, boom. The arrival of the Prussians swells the Allied army to nearly 120,000 troops. The math just became impossible for Napoleon. The system had completely overwhelmed the individual. So Napoleon's defeat at Waterloo wasn't just the end of his career. It was really the end of an entire era. The shockwaves from this one day of fighting would go on to define how we think about power and warfare for the next 100 years. See, when you boil it all down, Napoleon was a genius at fighting wars. No one disputes that. But Wellington and the Allies won because they had mastered the management of war, the alliances, the supply lines, the whole institutional framework. That was the new key to victory. Waterloo left us with some incredibly powerful lessons that are, frankly, still relevant. It proved that organized systems and strong alliances can and will triumph over individual brilliance. It showed that modern war is won with supply trucks as much as with battlefield tactics. It basically marked the end of the great man theory of history. The idea that one hero could conquer a continent was over. And it was the dawn of a new international order, one built on the idea of collective security. And all of this leaves us with a pretty big thought for our own time, doesn't it? In an age of incredibly complex global problems, everything from climate change to pandemics, does victory belong to the powerful, sometimes rigid systems we build? Or is there still a place for that disruptive genius, the lone visionary who can change the world? Waterloo offers one answer, but that question is still very much alive today.